Lady Bird is a coming-of-age slice-of-life film, following Christine, aka Lady Bird, through a year of her adolescence into college and all the problems that face her along the way. Greta Gerwig refers to the film as a love letter to Sacramento. However, it's also a love letter to the ever-changing relationship between mothers and daughters. Christine spends most of the film engaged in a combative mental relationship with her mother, but by the end of the film, not only does she mature, more importantly, so has their relationship. She understands her, and with a newfound empathy, as growing up does, realizes her parents are human too. Lady Bird has a memory-like aesthetic due to its colour grade. The colours are a slightly faded warm tone with added Alexa grain to give an organic texture, as if they were photos found in a shoebox. By relying on primarily colour alongside timing and rhythm, the story's emotional core is elevated throughout, even during what could be regarded as non-action scenes. Every moment has its place due to the ever-present feeling of nostalgia. The viewer isn't as much a voyeur, but someone sifting through a scrapbook containing snapshots of Christine's life. This simplistic editing style is a way of facilitating the story's emotional core, allowing the characters and their journey to be centre stage. In this scene, Christine has essentially had a baptism of fire, following a night of heavy drinking and probable stomach pumping. Sitting up by herself, she's juxtaposed against the shot of a boy and his mother. Christine's alone, an adult. This feels different to occurrences of autonomy in the rest of the film. She's probably the most independent she's ever been, and yet it feels intimate and almost lonely. Christine is then shown walking. The lack of dialogue combined with bittersweet music gives a feeling of aimlessness. The audience isn't told her destination, and the quick cuts between locations don't give an indication of how far she's travelling. The silence is broken through Christine asking a man what day it is, again adding to the feeling of isolation and confusion. Finally, to indicate her destination, the camera pans to a church, also signalled by the ringing of the bell. Having grown up in a religious upbringing, as well as having a religious mother, one could see this as a way for Christine to find home in an unfamiliar setting. Cutting from a wide shot of the choir to a medium close-up of Christine sighing implies a sense of relief, while the window behind Christine gives an almost angelic quality around her head. This shot is then held on Christine for around 18 seconds before abruptly cutting to her outside the church while she rings her parents. Holding the shot so long gives the audience time to pause and breathe alongside Christine, whose past 24 hours have been chaotic and uncertain. Cutting to her calling her family gives the indication that she's had an epiphany and come to terms with her emotions. There's been limited dialogue until this moment. The audience hasn't had access to Christine's thoughts, yet the familiar setting and previously pictured mother at the hospital indicate that Christine is missing her own mother and has finally come to appreciate her. Again, the editing is very simple. Christine is held in the frame with little headroom and her feet are cut out. It feels uncomfortable, almost suffocating, as if she doesn't fit in. It then cuts to a shot of Sacramento after Christine says her name on the phone. Having gone by Lady Bird throughout the film, this is the first time she fully accepts who she is, no longer too big for where she's come from. The slow zoom of the camera on Christine during her speech also punctuates the slow acceptance of her identity. The shots of Sacramento while Christine is driving have a postcard-like feel to them, idyllic, much like her newly discovered love of where she's from. The moment is bittersweet, as this love has been discovered since moving away and starting her new life, a feeling heartbreakingly relatable to the audience. Much like the vibe of the film itself, her time in her hometown has become a memory. By cross-cutting shots of Christine and her mother driving, it ties them together, and so rather than being at odds, it's a reconciliation. The nostalgic quality of the driving shots resembles a memory, and at last, they're facing the same way, not only in the frame, but as people, as if to indicate they're no longer in conflict. Christine is also shown looking back, while it cuts to her mother looking forward, acting as a shorthand to indicate moving forward with life, but not forgetting to look back at the past. Finally, having both Christine and the mother be shrouded in shadow into silhouettes removes their individual features, morphing them into the same person. The frame then cuts back to Christine in a medium close-up, which feels much more comfortable to the audience, indicating that she is independent and can stand on her own 2 feet.